Hey YouTube, this is City Prepping. So we made it to 2023, and I hope this is a year where you take your prepping journey to the next level. As we're going to see in this Prepper News segment, this year will likely be even more challenging than previous years. Also in this video, we're going to announce the winner of last week's giveaway, and I'm going to tell you how you can enter to win this week's giveaway, so definitely stick around for that. I'm also really excited to share with you a way that you can help others by sharing about your prepping journey and how it's gotten you through tough times. This is a new segment that we're going to be adding to these videos. So let's jump into the news that you need to know about to start off your new year. Russia, Ukraine. I won't make any bold predictions of the outcomes of this conflict here on this channel. War is one of those things that's always fluid, and as they say, there are no real winners in a war, only losers. Declarations that Russia has already lost the war are premature and they're very short-sighted. Some variables could still lead to a stalemate in its favor, or at least a reversal of fortune. At least at the moment, Ukraine is still making headway in clearing Russia from its land. Russia is also digging in on the eastern side of the Dnipro River in southern Ukraine, and they also have the advantage that the Donetsk and Luhansk front lines are in Ukraine's east near its own borders. If that continues through this winter, they may be able to win the day. When spring comes, however, Russia will be in a position to throw hundreds of thousands of Russian bodies into the conflict. The sheer mass of the force could turn the war again in Russia's favor. Still, Ukraine holds a kind of sort of home field advantage at this point. Though they do have smaller forces, they are highly motivated volunteers and not forcibly conscripted and poorly equipped, as reports of the Russian military would indicate. This conflict could still take a far deadlier nuclear turn. It could develop a new front line far from Ukraine. It could escalate through covert sabotage, as we've primarily seen with the Nord Stream pipeline blowing up. There's even a whole cyber aspect to this war's arsenal. Introducing HIMARS artillery warheads and Patriot missile batteries from the west could leave Russia vulnerable to attack and less effective with its missile and drone repertoire. Ukraine's Air Force Command reported Monday that all 39 Iranian-made exploding Shahad drones were shot down overnight, as well as 2 Russian-made Orlan drones and an X-59 missile. Still, their ability for continued shelling remains high, and only one needs to look as far back as the Battle of Grozny 2 decades ago to know that Putin is more than willing to level a city if he feels that it's going to lead to a Russian victory. Nobody should underestimate the Russian military, estimated to swell by another 200,000 soldiers in spring, despite some recent glaring flaws this conflict revealed. Putin will take any means necessary to maintain control to hold his positional gains. Russia will continue to hammer away at Ukraine's power infrastructure, and you can expect Ukraine's counteroffensive to take out single-track railway lines that are the only means to supply their forces. They will also strike further behind Russian lines, which may have a chilling effect on Muscovites. It's going to be a long, cold, deadly winter. At least for now. All we can reasonably understand are the impact that continued war will have on global supplies and economies. Expect the energy war waged with oil and natural gas. It's going to continue next year. It will be at crisis level by the end of winter, as Europe's supply will likely dwindle. Less natural gas also means less fertilizer, and that means even smaller agricultural harvests. Ukraine, Europe's breadbasket, will continue to struggle to plant in spring and bring its crops to the world's market. The result will be higher prices for some and famine for others. What do you think? Have you felt the impact of this war in your daily life? Let us know in the comments below. I'm especially interested in hearing from our European subscribers about their winter forecast, as this will impact war efforts. China. The instability in China continues into this new year. Since lifting its dynamic zero-COVID draconian restrictions, the world awaits the answer to several questions. How fast will the virus spread in the population that hasn't had much exposure due to COVID's restricting movement and exposure? Will it spawn a new variant? And how long will this surge last? China is a nation of 1.4 billion people and easily produces almost a third of all the world's goods. Experts have mathematical models based on surge data from other countries, which are applying, and the numbers do not look good. One data analysis in the UK has run models forecasting nearly 1.7 million deaths by April. This would also mean anywhere between 6 and 900 million infections in the Chinese population in 2023. And those are staggering numbers, but how will this impact the rest of the world? First, there's always a chance that a more virulent spawn of the virus could be unleashed on the world. There are already an estimated 500 sub-lineages of Omicron circulating the globe right now. And while many governments will not choose a lockdown route or require masks or vaccines again in 2023, high infection rates drag worker productivity and slow economies. And the slope of the epidemic curve is likely to be steep, but China will demand its factories remain open and operational. In their lockdown phase, they physically sealed workers behind doors inside of factories, and that practice will undoubtedly continue. And this could lead to pockets of civil unrest, and the government will shut down and censor as much as possible. We can expect quarantine camps housing tens of thousands to be the norm. One thing is for sure, the Chinese economy will suffer mightily through this next year if infection rates are anywhere near projections. Second, expect the world to react with travel restrictions. Qatar on Monday joined a growing list of countries, including the United States, India, and others, which have imposed COVID tests for travelers from China over concerns about the scale of the new outbreak and skepticism over Beijing's health statistics. There's also a call to begin wastewater surveillance of airlines to identify high infection concentration points of origin. I frequently list China right after Ukraine on these news segments because a significant outbreak could also alter the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. At the very least, a downturn in the Chinese economy will make it harder for Russia to import and export goods. Finally, any significant uptick in infections and deaths in China could further deteriorate the territorial disputes in Taiwan and the South China Sea. Beijing's saber-rattling is increasingly a means to deflect global criticism of their internal problems. China's warplane incursions into Taiwan's air defense zone nearly doubled in 2022, and it will likely double again in 2023. Japan and South Korea, they remain on the defense, but any one conflict in this zone could quickly spiral out of control. But staying on point here, we will know a lot more about the impact a surge in China will have by roughly the spring. What do you think? I'm always fascinated by the comments section on a mere mention of COVID. So what's your take on it? Economy. As we march into 2023, economists are forecasting a slowing of inflation. Prices will stabilize somewhat, but this also means that consumer demand will be cooling, and a recession is all but inevitable at that point. I would argue that we're pretty much already in a recession, which will get far worse from here, though many economists predict only a mild recession in the coming year. Time will tell. But as inflation cools, many businesses could see slower revenue growth and shrinking profit margins as consumers really begin to pull back spending. And the first casualty of that is GDP impacting the entire economy. The second casualty of this soft landing approach is a slowdown of manufacturing and possibly a workforce reduction in response to that. A recession of some sort is pretty much inevitable for most of the world. How bad that will be is still unknown. The war in Ukraine and COVID in China, which I detailed a moment ago, are really huge factors in the inevitable recession. We're also looking at continued significant decreases in agricultural production. While this will mean food shortages for some, more affluent nations will minimally face a leaner, belt-tightening year. And the key things to watch for in the near future are the employment statistics and, honestly, the Ukraine conflict. War is, let's be honest, it's a business of sorts, and wartime economic postures by some nations will determine how deeply into a recession they fall. Expect that economies around the world will slow significantly through these winter months. By the second quarter of 2023, we should have some solid indication of how light or how bad it's going to be. Please understanding how prepping creates economic stability for you. Storing food and water, growing some of your own food, preparing your own meals, and developing greater self-sufficiency really helps keep money in your pockets. Having even just 3 weeks of food and water stored will really put you in control of your own fate and make you less susceptible to more significant economic downturns. How do your preps help you survive economic downturns? You'd benefit the whole community by letting us know in the comments section below. Giveaway. For this week's giveaway, we're going to be giving away a box of survival energy bars. To enroll for a chance to be entered in the giveaway, just simply post a comment below. And next week, I'll use a tool to draw a winner from the comments on this video randomly. I'm not going to reach out to you unless your name appears on the screen next week. So please ignore reporting comments telling you that you've won, because it's not me, especially those coming from something like a platform like Telegram. For last week's winner of the Geiger counter, we used a tool to draw the name from the comments section, and the winner was Sile Hunt. I'll reach out to you shortly to get that sent to you. Subscriber stories. So you may have noticed I end each section with questions for you. And I do this because I've learned so much from the community over the years from viewers like yourself right out of the comments section. And I frequently receive emails and comments about how our videos and content have helped people survive everything, from losing a job to record-breaking winter storms. These tales of survival are so important for us all to learn from. So I'm announcing a new segment that I'll add to the cityprepping.com blogs. If you have a tale of survival, whether it could be from a recent blizzard in Buffalo, the power outages in South Carolina, or Hurricane Ian in Florida, I'd love to hear from you. Just send the story to story@cityprepping.com. Again, that's story@cityprepping.com. Tell us what you went through and, more importantly, what you learned. We're going to take your name off it. We'll edit for any length and content, and we'll take away anything that could give away revealing information. Again, just share photos or content that you're comfortable with us putting on the blog. We'd love to get your feedback and learn from you. Again, share what you learned, what mistakes you made. I think that's one of the important things that people are afraid to share is the mistakes. And I'll be honest, I often learn from my own mistakes and others more than what I know I should be doing. I often learn from those mistakes. So feel free to share everything, at least what you're comfortable with. Weather. Several months ago, we looked at the data and the predictions from the scientific community, and we made the dire prediction that we were looking at atmospheric rivers in the Pacific Northwest, brutal freezing temperatures, and excessive snowfall for the upper Midwest and East Coast. So far, we've been right, and I take no joy in saying that, as the results have been horrific for many. The Northwest has been hit by its first real atmospheric river of a downpour, and another is on the way. More noticeably, though, has been the incredible snowfall recorded in New York State. The death toll in Buffalo rose to 37 people, and for many it was a struggle for survival. If there is one thing that you are guaranteed this year, it is the unpredictability of the weather. Those snow levels have started out well, which is a welcome relief to drought-stricken areas. Water policies, population strains, and a larger mega drought impacting water supplies, it's going to continue. Despite frequent power and infrastructure challenges aggravated by freezing temperatures, utility companies still struggle with seemingly more frequent and prolonged power disruptions. For some, that is a mere inconvenience. It's going to be a struggle for others to survive freezing winters or sweltering summers. Even as much of the northern United States and northern Russia was plunged into freezing temperatures, Europe had a warm airflow from northwest Africa. And that's great for their energy situation, given the limited reserves and the stoppage of Russian supplies. Our previous concern was that a significantly bad winter in Europe would deplete the reserves completely. And that's not off the table, but this warm spell really helps reserve supplies. While it's good for Europe that their winter is at the moment warmer and they need less fuel to stay warm, it's a bad omen for the rest of this year. Where it is really bad is how this impacts nature. Warm weather like what we're experiencing at the moment will be followed by the cold weather of winter. But the challenge is that this warm weather we're currently facing is enough to trick the trees, so to speak, into budding and insects to wake up. Then they're going to get hammered again by freezing temperatures, resulting in a substantial die-off. And this can impact agriculture, affecting both economies and food supplies. After an unprecedented 3-year La Nina cycle, the early forecast is for an El Nino cycle next in our future. Expect this summer to be one of the hottest in our historical record. You can expect crop production around the world to take a hit. You can expect hydroelectric operations and river transportation to continue to struggle. Even if you're shivering right now, realize that summer is right around the corner. For some, that will mean drought. For others, it's going to be a deluge. And for some, that will mean power outages. For some, it will mean crop failures. Many people come to prepping because of natural disasters they have faced, and many more will come to prepping because of the future natural disasters that they anticipate. Certainly the infrastructure, modern and old constructions, and population concentrations will struggle to keep ahead of extreme weather events. I would encourage you to plan accordingly, even as much of the western United States faces another year of a multi-decade drought. The rain will eventually come, but will you be prepared when it does? One of the best ways to prepare is to start growing at least some of what you eat. Most of us are not in a position, either with time or money, to produce everything we need to sustain ourselves. However, even a little supplementation can significantly stretch your stored supplies. If you haven't had a chance to explore the gardening series we recently launched on this channel, now might be a good time for you to do so. The impact of the weather on global food supplies will continue to be a challenge. I would encourage you to start this new year by genuinely committing to prepping for an uncertain future. An uncertain future is all but guaranteed at this point. How you weather that future is entirely up to the decisions that you make right now. As always, stay safe out there.